And there is the other big issue now hanging over the Trump White House, that breaking news we've been talking about, reports about Russian intelligence officers possibly offering to pay bounties to Taliban-affiliated fighters who kill Americans in Afghanistan. This according to U.S. intelligence sources. One official told NBC that, quote, American service members died as a result of Russian payments to the Taliban, but other officials said the intelligence has not been corroborated. The New York Times, which broke the story late Friday, also reported that, quote, the intelligence finding was briefed to President Trump. And tonight, the Times is out with new reporting just in the last few minutes that, quote, American officials provided a written briefing in late February to President Trump, laying out their conclusion that a Russian military intelligence unit offered and paid bounties to Taliban-linked militants to kill U.S. and coalition troops in Afghanistan. The investigation into the suspected Russian covert operation to incentivize such killings has focused in part on an April 2019 car bombing that killed 3 Marines as one such potential attack. A few minutes ago, one of the reporters on that New York Times story told Lawrence O'Donnell this detailed information went beyond the White House.
It was disseminated more broadly within the intelligence community in a publication called The Wire that the CIA puts out for people with security clearances to read about the areas in their specialty on May 4. And so this is significant because it undercuts the White House's narrative the last sort of 36 hours.
Now, NBC News has not confirmed whether the president was briefed on this subject. Sunday night, Trump tweeted that after news leaked over the weekend, he was told by intelligence officials that they did not find the information credible and that, therefore, they had not briefed him on the matter. Today, the White House was asked about the president's claim that he had not previously been told about the intelligence.
You say that he wasn't briefed. Does that mean it wasn't in the PDB either?
He was not personally briefed on the matter.
Has the National Security Advisor or anyone explained why they didn't think it rose to the level that the Commander-in-Chief should find out about it?
So intelligence is verified before it reaches the President of the United States, and in this case, it was not verified.
Has he been since briefed, since all of these reports came out?
There is no consensus within the intelligence community on these allegations, and in effect, there are dissenting opinions from some in the intelligence community.
This afternoon, 8 House Republicans did get a briefing on this matter at the White House, and several House Democrats are expected to get their own briefing early tomorrow morning. Jeremy, let me start with you because we were looking for some responses from the White House today to this reporting, and there seemed to be in the language there, if you were listening carefully to Kayleigh McEnany, saying the president was not personally briefed, leaving open potentially with that wording the possibility that this had appeared in print in one of his briefings. It appears from this new reporting, at least according to the Times, that this material was available to the president through the presidential daily briefing. For folks who are not familiar with how this works, this is a daily top secret document that lands on the president's desk. Who prepares this? And does anybody else besides the president look at it in the White House?
Yes, Steve. First, the president's daily brief is prepared by a cell of analysts working under the auspices of the Director of National Intelligence. It's in effect run by the CIA, but it actually pulls from people across the 17 intelligence components. And it is a daily digest or write-up of all of the relevant intelligence for that day. And it's not just that it's available to the president. This is the president's daily brief. It is for him. If it was given to him for him to read, he was briefed on this. Now, he may have not read it. He may have forgotten about it. He may have ignored it or chose to ignore it, or he's just incompetent, read it, didn't understand what he's doing. But you can't say he wasn't briefed. You can't say he wasn't personally briefed. If it was in the PDB, he was briefed. Now, by the way, the PDB also goes to other cabinet secretaries, secretaries of state, defense, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, attorney general, other senior officials, including the National Security Advisor. And a version of this intelligence, according to the Associated Press and New York Times reporting tonight, was also disseminated more broadly across the national security apparatus. In fact, Gina Haspel, the CIA director, said in her statement tonight that it was briefed to allies and other national security officials. So definitively the president was briefed. And the question tonight is, what did he do about it? If it's nothing, he has a lot of answers to provide the American people and the families of those who lost their lives in those Taliban attacks.
Well, that is the other question here, then, because I was talking earlier on the air with our Pentagon correspondent, Courtney Cubey, who was saying from the folks she was talking to, she was getting mixed signals on what exactly the intelligence community was looking at here. There's some felt pretty confident that Russia had done exactly what's described. Others felt this wasn't as solid. In terms of what lands on the president's desk, do you have any sense what the confidence level was that was conveyed to him?
Don't know, but all I would say is that it doesn't have to be 100% confidence or even high confidence for it to be included in the president's daily brief. The president's daily brief is kind of an amalgam of written analytic products that might be over the medium and long term analyzing a trend or development, but it also sometimes is very tactical or raw intelligence. So if the U.S. picks up an important piece of intelligence from a human source or takes a photograph from space via satellite imagery of an important location, say in North Korea, that raw intelligence is going to go to the president. And particularly in this case, because it dealt with the lives of U.S. troops in Afghanistan, undoubtedly this would be included in material given to the president and his senior advisors at the White House.
We're just getting this statement in the last few minutes in terms of reaction from Capitol Hill to this new reporting we detailed from the New York Times. This is from Texas Republican Congressman Michael McCaul. He was in that briefing. He was among those 8 Republicans who were at the White House earlier today. He says of this new reporting from the New York Times that intelligence about potential Russian bounties may have been included at some point in the president's daily brief, but not conveyed to President Trump in a formal threat briefing because it was not yet actionable. Jeremy, and I do want to bring our other guests in, but Jeremy,
I'm sorry, just Steve, I got to respond to that.
Let me just, I want to be clear on because I'm confused here, and maybe you can explain this. It seems that Congressman McCaul is making a distinction between this appearing in the printed daily brief versus officials sitting down with the president one-on-one, two-on-one, whatever it may be. Is that a valid distinction here?
No, it's not. It's a distinction without a difference. When a document is given to the president for him to read, he is receiving that briefing. The fact that they didn't sit around and talk about it, and by the way, I'm not sure why they didn't, but that's another issue. But the fact that they didn't sit around and talk about it doesn't absolve the president of understanding what's being provided to him. Now, if the president said, look, I don't want to take the briefings written, I want them all oral, we would have done that from the beginning, maybe you could argue that's a better way to do business, but he can't claim he wasn't briefed on this if a document was handed to him to read.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.